How
Yeah.
did you go from, trying to find somebody to help to virtual, and then and obviously you hit it out of the park.
It's really funny, isn't it? How like little things happen and they trigger, for example, when you meet your spouse, you think back to all of the sliding doors moments that made that happen. And if those things hadn't happened, then you may never have met. It's literally the same with this. Years ago, like 10 years ago, I read The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And in that, he refers to virtual assistants. And I don't know how it came about. I think I was networking with another Amazon seller, and they talked about virtual assistants, and they talked very much about the theory was great, but they also had struggled with the reality of finding good virtual assistants. And I'm stubborn and I'm an entrepreneur. So like I'm a visionary. I have huge visions, huge goals, huge aspirations. So once there's an idea that I think can help me achieve those, I'm like, I need to find a way to make it work. So that was really why I went in with the virtual assistant. It just seemed like if we could get it to work, it would be perfect for us. And we looked at the Philippines because we needed the cost effectiveness. So in the Philippines, the national living wage is really low, like significantly lower than here and over there. But the cost of living is also lower. So that means that we're able to pay less than we would pay here. One of the things at Resource Worldwide, we're really hot on. There are some people that literally will pay VAs $2, $3 an hour. For us, we don't do that. We pay a minimum of double, at least, the national living wage. We also pay things like health insurance, we do bonuses, we do benefits, and all of that just attracts a really good quality of candidate, but it's still super cost effective for us in the UK, you guys in the States. So that was really appealing to me primarily, like as a business owner, my bottom line is something I'm looking at and focused on, and that's what's going to drive it. And then the other thing that I was looking at was the standard of work. And you guys obviously work with Burton. The standard of work's just exceptional. Like in the Philippines, when you get the right people, they're so committed and so excited to have the opportunity to work alongside you that they will show up, they'll deliver, they'll over deliver many times. And that, I mean, I haven't had a massive experience of employing people in the UK yet to be able to have a comparison there. But my experience of working with these guys is that their attitude's incredible, their work ethic's incredible, and their skill set's incredible when you find the right ones.
What are some of the first things people need to ask? Like how do you what do? You take an assessment of everything you do in a week and break it down.
Yeah.
And what's the right
Yeah.
way to approach this?
So it varies, right? So we can cover two different levels. I just wanted to cover something off that you spoke about because it's very, very relevant to a lot of conversations I've had quite literally in the last 2 weeks and some of the pivots we're making in our business at the moment. But something that's happening worldwide is there's a lot of executive burnout. In the UK, there's a lot of companies starting to trial 4-day work weeks. There are a lot of companies competing. It's very much a candidate driven market at the moment. As you guys, you just said, you're finding as well, recruiting is challenging. So what we're looking to do, other than just the kind of, you're a smaller business, get some virtual assistants in to support you, we're actually starting to work with some of the more established businesses now with much larger workforces to provide fractional support for them. So it means they've got their core executives, and instead of those executives ever doing any of the lower level tasks, they've got virtual assistants to support them to do the lower level tasks. What it means, it's not replacing your workforce, it's kind of giving a virtual staff option, which is much more cost effective. So then you as a company have more money to reinvest back into your core staff base, maybe look at things like 4-day work weeks, give extra bonuses, give incentives, and make sure they're not getting at risk of burnout because you do have the capacity with the extra staff. It's just they're working virtually. So that's one element for the larger companies. For the smaller companies who are kind of, where I was when I started up my journey, the first thing you have to do is identify how you're actually spending your time. Because as an entrepreneur, it's likely that you're probably also a visionary. And if you're finding that you're getting demotivated, if you're finding that you're procrastinating, you're probably in a cycle where you're doing things that don't give you a ton of energy, right? You're doing things which aren't exciting. And case in point, it's 11 p.m. here in the UK. I have a 9-month-old who hasn't figured out how to sleep yet. So I've been up since like 5 a.m. and I'm so energized right now doing this with you. I've had an amazing day of meetings. I've had lots of exciting things happen, and I'm buzzing because I'm getting to talk to you guys about something I'm so passionate about. But my energy levels are high because I've had a team of 10 people working in the Philippines today behind the scenes to do all of the nuts and bolts and the day-to-day of the business. So the first thing to do is just to observe, how do you actually feel about what you're doing in your business? And if you don't feel amazing about it, start thinking about why. How are you actually spending your time, right? So just take a pen and paper, and for the next 3 days, make a note of all the tasks that you're doing. So it could be emails, it could be things, it could be contacting a estate agent, sending out mail drops, whatever it might be. Make a big list of all of the things that you're doing. Next to it, go through and write down how long it's taken, and be really honest, because some people are like, oh, I've spent 15 minutes checking my emails, and then they do this and they realize, oh, I spent 15 minutes 6 times a day checking my emails. So suddenly they spent like 90 minutes checking their emails, right? And then when you finish doing that, get a highlighter out and highlight. And to your point here, Danielle, when you're like, no one can do it as well as I can, that is like what runs through everyone's mind.
I know.
So just like,
in looking at the industry, because I think this industry is ripe for, whether it's short-term Airbnbs, whether it's long-term or property management. The majority of the real estate industry does not use virtual assistants, and you must be looking at it now very differently, having been in that business and now doing it successfully. What are some of the things that you see now, looking, from the virtual assistant inward, or outward, I should say, at the real estate business? What could people be doing?
I think what you just said about mindset is super important, but just to add to that, I completely agree with you. Another one is that business is there to make you grow. Like I see business as an opportunity for constant growth, evolution, personal development, right? So if a challenge comes up, like, oh my gosh, I'm spending all of my time doing this and I'm not growing the business. If you can get that mentality to look at it as, this is going to be fun, how am I going to solve it? What's going to be the solution? Put a date on it. Within 30 days, I want to make sure that I have found a software that automates and does all of this, or I have found a person that does and it automates all this. Just make it fun. Like, I feel like people get really frustrated and really down, and it's so like, and they get into a dark place. And I've definitely been there. That conversation with my husband, when he came home, I was crying and I was like, I can't do this, all my dreams have gone. And you do get yourself into that place. So just try and turn it, like, it's just a challenge. You're going to grow through it. What do you need? Who do you need? There's an amazing book I'm reading at the moment by Dan Sullivan. Highly recommend it to everyone, called Who Not How. I don't know if you've read that, but literally the question is always about, who do I need to help me achieve what I want to achieve, as opposed to how do I go about achieving what I want to achieve. And business is so much about connections and working with other people, irrelevant of what industry it is. So the more people that you can find to help you achieve your goals, and in turn help them achieve their goals at the same time, the more fun you're going to have running the business. So that's just a byproduct of working with a virtual assistant. It's a lot more fun and a lot less isolating when you start to build a team out and you have that accountability to them and they have that accountability to you as well. Then specifically to the industry, what we're seeing here in the UK, especially with serviced accommodation, you guys have got a ton of this as well, right? Serviced accommodation. So that's no longer like just going, finding a house, doing it up, selling it, like the old school investing, or the single lets. Like my grandparents had a huge portfolio of like over 400 single let properties that my great granddad built himself, like every single one of them. Now people have moved much more into Airbnb serviced accommodation. So what does that require? Well, it's a much higher return on your investment, but it requires a much bigger time investment, right? So you've got all of customer service, you've got the people that were locked out at 2 a.m. So you have to find a way. If you're going to scale, like you just said about your friend cleaning it, it's not scalable if you don't get comfortable with outsourcing it.
If they would hire a virtual assistant to do some of this stuff and they could, carve it out of their budget, then that virtual assistant could be getting them red hot leads that are like ready to go, considering, wholesaling the property. So then they just have to make time to meet with those people. And then they actually are able to get started. Because I think that's the big thing. A lot of people, we talk to people a lot. Oh, I want to wholesale. I want to do this. But they just never do it. We're all busy. And so like you said, to piece out carve out a little bit of a budget for somebody else to take that time and do the work for you, and then you just have to follow up. I think that's another way where assistance can be valuable.
Yeah, and I think the problem with something like that is people will definitely go, but how could a virtual assistant do that for me? Right? Like, especially someone overseas, how are they going to know how our market works, or like our area or whatever it might be? And this is so important. The way that you make it work is you do simple, basic training, and you have some basic project management things in place. So anyone that has a virtual assistant, all you need to do to get your virtual assistant up to scratch, if you don't have a single system or process in your business right now, it literally doesn't matter. If you don't have a business, you're just thinking about it. So let's take that for an example, right? Where people are doing phone call outreach to homeowners, and they want to see if they're looking to sell their house in a particular area. If you just set up a system of how you do that, so like, this is how I find them, this is what I say on the phone, this is what I say with this overturn, and just do some live recordings. But as you're doing it all, you're screen recording as well. So talking it through, screen recording, you're doing it anyway. It's not taking you any more time. You're not having to do training like this on Zoom with your virtual assistant. You're literally creating training documents whilst you're doing it yourself anyway. So then when you hire your VA, you have like a whole G drive full of training materials. So it's not actually going to take you any additional time to train your virtual assistant, but it's going to free you up significantly.